For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
Now you will experience the full power of the dark side.
Welcome to Dark Coffee.
I've been looking forward to this.
As you see, my Jedi powers are far beyond yours. Now, back down.
Good.
This is Gunner, the Modern Day Viking from TNA Impact Wrestling, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z and Corey Clubb. This is the podcast you're looking for.
We would like to welcome two longtime fans of Star Wars and Coffee with Kenobi, TNA's Gunner and the Chicken Horse himself, Chad, of the Cantina Cast. Pro wrestling fans will need no introduction to this total nonstop action wrestling icon. The Modern Day Viking is a fan favorite in the ring, and he is here to talk about his pro wrestling career, as well as talk about his other great passion, Star Wars. Chad has been a fan of our show since the beginning, has been a great supporter and friend, as well as a frequent contributor to one of our favorite Star Wars podcasts, the Cantina Cast. Welcome, Gunner and Chad.
What's up, guys?
Hello, hello.
Hello. It's so nice to have you both here to have a cup of coffee with us.
Yes, dark coffee.
Very dark. Like no milk, no sugar.
It's practically just grains.
I mean, that's what I do. I pretty much just take spoonfuls of coffee grounds and just put them in my mouth like chewing tobacco.
I eat whole beans. I don't even grind them all. Straight hardcore, guys.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's what Vikings do.
Yeah, that's slaughter puffin.
That's right. That's right. You know what? I had a bet with myself how long it would take to hear the word puffin, and I lost the bet. Right. All right, so here we go. Gunnar, we're just going to start with you. We got a lot of people. You're such an incredible person to have on our show, and your presence on Twitter is great because I've noticed the way you interact with the fans is wonderful, and a lot of people are wanting to ask this, and Corey and I want to know as well, but how did you get involved with professional wrestling?
I'm living my dream, man. Since I was 5, it's what ever since I remember, it's what I wanted to do. My mother can vouch for that too. It's I'm lucky enough to be able to do what I love, so it's not a job at all. I started in 2000 when I got out of high school. I just kind of traveling and training in my hometown of Hickory, North Carolina with a local, promotion, and just went from there. Got in the military from 2002 to 2006 and traveled all over the place, still wrestling unless I was deployed. And then when I got out, I started, doing a lot more stuff overseas and with TNA and, even did a couple extra spots with WWE at the time. So, one thing led to another. Here I am. It took me 10 years to get a contract, but, I'm living my dream, once I said.
Were there ever times when you were doing that when it was discouraging, or did you just have that vision? You just kept fighting for that?
Nah, there is obviously, some guys get in there and in 2 years they get a job, and it took me that long. I think really because I was in the military, it kind of slowed me down. But yeah, there was some discouraging times. It kind of, but really, I was taught as a kid to kind of things that discourage you. A lot of people will quit, and then when you get older, you're like, why'd I quit? I could have kept going and trying and maybe made it. Me, there was no quit. There's a lot of sacrifice that I gave up. A lot of family time and stuff like that. But one thing led to another, and I got discouraged, obviously, but you get discouraged in anything. You just got to keep going. I mean, I'm sure you guys, as far as your profession, it's not easy. You just got to work hard, man. Just
That's right.
Things.
Well, and I also know, too, from everything you've done on Twitter and all the interactions we've had over this past year, you're a man of faith, too, and that's got to help as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was raised that way, and it does. It gives you something to lean on. I always tell people, and I try and put on my Twitter page or Facebook page that I don't like to preach to people. I like to give people positive advice because everybody believes in something different. Whatever makes you a better person, whatever makes you a more positive person, then there you go. Some people don't believe in God like me, but, you just, like I said, whatever makes you a more positive person. And it definitely has helped me in life, with a lot of things.
Well, you've certainly earned your right to do your dream job. And what a fascinating thing. But I think when it comes down to it, there's challenges that come with everything that you have to build up to get. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've had as a pro wrestler?
Oh, man. I think like I said, the 10 years it took me to get that contract. Like there was times when you see other guys getting a job or, all the hard work you put in or the like miles I've traveled and living paycheck to paycheck for many, many years because, in independent wrestling, you don't make a lot of money when you're traveling town to town and doing these small shows. It's really, you're paying your dues there. And, I'm still having to work a full-time job. When I was doing it, I was still having to drive, on weekends, Lord knows how many hours and miles on my car and just literally living paycheck to paycheck. So that was a lot, that was rough. But then again, it was what I wanted to do since I was a kid. So that was the sacrifice I had to make, and thankfully I get to do what I love now. So other than that, really, I think that's the only thing that was really hard for me. The physical part's been easy. It's, a different transition going from wrestling small crowds to doing what I do now, wrestling on TV, and then going to we did the UK where crowds were just ridiculous. But you just got to go out there and you just perform the same way you do in front of 10 people, in front of the same way you would in front of 10,000 people.
I can only imagine the adrenaline you must feel on those big nights.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like words can't describe it. Just like especially when we did the UK things, and I had a world title shot in Manchester, England. That was probably the biggest match of my career thus far, and just to have the people like chanting your name or behind you, or whether they're booing me or cheering me, like I'm doing my job. So it's adrenaline rush, and sometimes you're out there and you're kind of like tunnel vision, but you gotta then you get through the curtain, you're like, man, it was amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
That's incredible, and you sound like you've moved around a lot, and you've really built your career up over 10 years. And I'm curious to know too. You're a big guy. You got to be out there. You got to be working out every day. What's the most unique way you've worked out through your career that you've been doing? Are you lifting cinder blocks, or what's something unique you've done?
You've watched too much Rocky.
What?
Just kidding. Go ahead.
There's a gym that I go to in my hometown that I've been a member of since I was 19, and the guy is really good, and his son does a lot of flipping tires and sledgehammers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was not too long ago I went, and it was a really nice day, thankfully, which is rare around here right now. But we we was dragging tires. It was about a 2-hour workout. We were flipping a 500-pound tire back and forth. I like stuff like that. That's just like raw power, kind of like we used in Iceland, just straight up raw power. But
awesome.
No, it was great, man. Like training like that is totally different for you than just regular getting in there and bench pressing or whatever, which bores the crap out of me half the time. But I try to do different stuff. I'm Jack, best looking guy in the gym, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. There you go.
Well, anybody who's ever worked out knows it's a lot of reps. I mean, you get buff.
Of course. Look at me.
There you go. Well, heck, I think you filled out the Coffee with Kenobi shirt a little better than we did. Yeah. Okay, so check it out. Because of course, you sent us your shirt too, and we really appreciate that. So that was so cool. Since you had that shirt, has people asked you about Coffee with Kenobi at all?
Yeah, actually, I have. I wore it into coffee shop a couple of days, maybe a week ago, and somebody was like, "Well, I like your shirt." They saw the Millennium Falcon on it, and I told them about it. I try to pass you guys around as much as possible. They were, obviously coffee shop, probably a bunch of Star Wars or just straight up sci-fi fans anyway. So
right.
I get a few questions here and there because I do wear it. I enjoy it. And,
that's super cool.
Yeah, I try to pass around, especially I try my best to promote you guys.
Well, you've done a great job. I mean, almost overnight, our Facebook page jumped by over 200, and I think that's just after we announced you were going to have some dark coffee with us. So we really appreciate it.
I owe it to Chad. He turned me on to you guys. So
I know he's a good man. I
wouldn't go that far.
I'm better than most. I might not be good, but I'm better than most.
He's over there flexing, guys. He's flexing.
I wondered about that.
Yeah,
he's in the mirror. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a perfect transition because obviously we are a Star Wars podcast. So how did you become a Star Wars fan?
Funny. Well, I guess it was probably growing up. I was a late bloomer, really. A friend of my mom would come over to the house a lot and kind of, babysit me and my brother and sister. And she was a huge Star Wars fan. And I was thinking, Star Wars, like, come on, let's watch something like He-Man or something, honestly. But then she would watch it all the time. And I just really became intrigued with it. And then when the episode 1, 2, and 3 came out, I was there at the theaters like opening night. So it kind of escalated from there. And now, obviously, like I said, watch them every day. So, but I was probably, I guess maybe 15 or 16, and I'm 31 now. So, like I said, I was a late bloomer. Hey, why are you laughing at me?
Because you're funny looking.
Be careful, want to anger him. Don't anger the Wookiee.
Listen, I'm not scared of him. I've been beat up by people smaller than him.
Oh. All right, so how do you combine your love of Star Wars with pro wrestling? And how have fans responded to that and your love of the galaxy of a far, far away?
How have I combined it?
How do you combine wrestling with your love of the galaxy far, far away? How do you use it in your psychology and everyday profession?
Or do you ever make Star Wars references?
I have.
Exactly.
I've made some Star Wars references a couple of times.
And plus, you mentioned something you watch. I mean, when you're working out, I know when you're on the treadmill, you listen to some Coffee with Kenobi. That counts.
There you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I'm a huge music fan too. So, but I think it's past. Like I travel a lot, so it gives me, you guys give me something to definitely listen to because it's knowledgeable for me because I'm not old Chad over here where I'm like an encyclopedia of Star Wars. So you guys really help pass the time for me on these long travel days. So I can use that. There's a lot in wrestling. There's a lot of like it's different now than it was say in the 80s. Like wrestlers are more comic book and movie and things like that. They're more readers and fans now, stuff like that. So we I got a couple buddies that it's Impact Wrestling with me that we get to talk Star Wars and kind of mingle about that. So it's funny how you kind of interact with, you meet different kinds of people. Like Samoa Joe, for instance, he's a huge size, like sci-fi fan. So we talk about Star Wars all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a lot, and then trying to think who else. Ken Anderson likes Star Wars a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Shane Helms is also a big fan. He's not in TNA, but he's also a big comic book sci-fi guy.
He's huge in it. Yeah. Really how I kind of put them together. I mean, it's a lot of it gives me something to listen to while I'm traveling, or the movies. Obviously, I can take with me and watch anywhere.
Yeah, but also, you can work the movies into like gimmicks and stuff like that. Like you were saying, how you look at the good and the bad. Like in Star Wars, it's clearly defined. The good guys, in quotations, obviously, are the Rebel Alliance or the Republic, and then the bad guys are the Empire or the Separatists. So in wrestling, you have a heel and you have a face.
Right.
So the psychology is very similar as well.
It is. It's storytelling.
Storytelling, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, pro wrestling is storytelling. Like it's the same thing as, and just like the movies. I mean, you pick that person that you're attached to, and then kind of pro wrestling fans pick that one character that they're attached to, and you got to go out there in the middle of the ring, or whether you got 6 minutes or 30 minutes, you got to tell a story for these people. So
that's a perfect way to explain it, which leads perfectly into just the notion of the mythology that Star Wars has, the way it brings people together. And then we talk about having dark coffee. So tell us why is the appeal of the dark side so strong, so intriguing for you, and why all the hashtags with dark coffee?
Oh boy! Like I said, ever since I was a kid, I've been a fan of just like the villains. So even in pro wrestling, and then as a child, when I started watching Star Wars, I was a huge fan of Darth Vader, and quit whispering in my ear like we're on a date. I really like just kind of like the rule of two deal really stuck with me to where it was like all the power was really just with those two. Like I like a lot of the expanded universe books like Darth Bane and stuff like that because that was really when the rule of two started. So it kind of like you had and I know Chad's touched on this before where all the Jedi were spread out, but you really only had the rule of two when it came to the Sith and apprentice. So, I mean, or the master and the apprentice. But that was really cool to me because it was like they were keeping all the power, all the dark side just in two people instead of like the Jedi and the lights or the side like that. The good side, it was just spread out amongst everybody. So I guess that's really what I got into. And just like you said, Palpatine was like the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he was like just just unlimited power, man. I mean, his lightning bolt shooting from his fingertips was always amazing to me. So
that's awesome.
Did Chad anything to add as far as dark coffee?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, was that something you came up with?
Yeah, how to come up? When did it come about?
Dark coffee is what I came up with because you guys were Coffee with Kenobi, and you're always talking about Jedi and all goody topics, but there's two sides to every coin. So dark coffee is the reality of the Star Wars universe without the added sweetener or, Bantha milk. Because if you think about it, one side can't exist without the other. So you can't have the Rebel Alliance if there's nothing to rebel against.
True.
So, the dark side is a very prominent fixture in the Star Wars universe, whether it's, just the Empire itself being the Empire without knowing that it's being ruled by a Sith Lord, or you have, the Sith Lords, like Gunnar had said, with the rule of two, with, whether it's Plagueis and Sidious, and then Sidious and Maul, and Sidious and Tyrannus, and Sidious and Vader. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Sidious is pulling the strings the entire time in full view of everybody, and no one knows.
Right.
So, I mean, I think, that's that, like Gunnar was saying, that's absolute power. I mean, that's absolute dark coffee. I mean, that's like Odin Force roast.
It's like hair on your chest, just smelling it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that, in some ways you have to respect that, because if you look at the overall saga from episode 1 to 6, Palpatine, even in Return of the Jedi, is until Luke confronts him, is pretty much unconfronted by anybody except for the Jedi, Mace Windu and the three, jobbers that went with him to go confront him, and then Yoda, and then for at least 30 or so years, he's not really, he doesn't really come up against any opposition until Luke comes up to him, but even Luke doesn't confront him directly. It's more of an indirect confrontation via casting his lightsaber away.
I was saying it's more true Jedi that the Jedi in the prequels failed to realize he's
absolutely.
He stops being he just use it for knowledge and defense, never attack, and he realizes, hey, you can't take my soul. You can try to take my body, but you cannot take my soul. And then ultimately he loses.
Right, absolutely. And the fact is the only other person in the prequel trilogy that embodied that spirit was Qui-Gon Jinn. It leads me to believe that even the dark side in of itself is not bad evil, but more of a point of view on, centralizing power within oneself rather than limiting or extrapolating it across a bunch of people who either A, don't know how to use it, or B, don't deserve to use it.
So speaking of the dark side and dark coffee, Chad, you are a big fan favorite of Count Dooku, I'm sorry, I should phrase it as Darth Tyrannus. Yes. So, what draws you to him? What makes him so intriguing? Tell us a little about that.
Darth Tyrannus was everything that Anakin wasn't and should have been, and that's what I like about him.
Old, single.
Yeah, was a Jedi. Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I love Darth.
A lot of the reason why people don't like him is because he is older. You know what I mean? I think I talked with you guys about it before. If he was more Qui-Gon's age, you know what I mean, as a character, sure, I think more people would have been drawn to him. The fact that he was older and therefore more of a master of the Force, I think a lot of people, I think that pushed a lot of people away. But I always thought that one thing he said in the Clone Wars, which I thought was very telling about his character, was that he said to Asajj Ventress, and I'm not really sure which episode it was, but he told her that it wasn't his strength in the dark side that gave him an edge, but it was his experience in life that gave him the edge, because all the mistakes that she was going to make and everyone else were going to make, he had already made and had learned from them. And I thought that was a very, very powerful thing for someone who's obviously a master of both the light side and the dark side. If you think about it, the only person we see shoot lightning other than, Darth Sidious is Darth Tyrannus. So he has to be up there. I'm not saying that he is an even fight for Darth Sidious, but, in Return of the Jedi, when you see Luke and Vader fighting with lightsabers, and all of a sudden the Emperor comes out and says, "Look at me, I shoot lightning," you know what I mean? And then proceeds to fry Luke, you're thinking, holy expletive deleted Ichuta, oh my God. But then when you see an Attack of the Clones, that Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus is the same stature, that he's able to use Sith lightning too. The guy's a major player. He's a major player in the dark side.
And Gunnar brought this up too with Darth Plagueis. You see with the Sith, the big difference between the Jedi and the Sith as far as they use in the Force is the Force with the Jedi is something that they use in harmony and synergy, but the Sith seek to control the Force, and they're more aggressive, and they're much more fascinating as far as that goes. We're kind of a society that's drawn to that kind of thing, and I'm certainly in that boat as well. But you just see discipline versus chaos, and we all have kids that look up to us and that we are responsible for, and we hope to be good role models and strong role models for them. And really, which one would you rather lean them towards?
Yeah, but I mean, even what you said doesn't really make a lot of sense, because the Jedi use the Force, but I don't see order with that.
Exactly. That's the beauty of Palpatine. He screws them up.
I mean, he totally sets them up, to be victims of their own device. Caod Mundi is allowed to have, a wife and multiple kids and things like that, but Anakin can't marry. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of paradox even within the Jedi Order. I would think.
Is that EU? I never heard that before.
Yeah, that's definitely EU. If you
that's why it's not canon.
Well, obviously, but if you go to Wikipedia, you'll find it out. But the Sith, I mean, they are more orderly than the Jedi could ever think of. I mean, you have a master and you have apprentice. The master teaches the apprentice, and when the apprentice is stronger than the master.
Yeah, but that's more cutthroat too.
You get electrified drinking a bottle of Carillion Ale, Right?
But then again, they always go against their rule too.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, but it's like Count Dooku said. Treachery is the way of the Sith. I mean, that's why in Episode 3, when Anakin cuts his hands off and is about ready to give him a new hairstyle, aka remove his head. You know what I mean? He doesn't say anything. He understands. Like, listen, if I was better, I wouldn't be in this position. Treachery is the way of the Sith. He played his part. Could he have ratted Palpatine out? Of course, but he didn't.
Yeah, but I think also in that scene, he looks at Palpatine thinking like, wait a minute, we didn't really plan this.
Right. Well, because in the book, in the novelization, which is non-canon, I know you guys like to throw that word around a lot.
But we do. It's fun.
Yeah. In the novelization, Palpatine, as far as bringing Dooku over to the dark side, tells him that they're going to, reinvent the Republic as the Empire and the Jedi Order as the new Sith Order. And Anakin will be one of their generals, So Palpatine's telling Dooku, like, if he beats you, I'm going to call him off and let him in on what's going on, as long as you take Obi-Wan out of the equation, and then we'll bring him over to our side. At that point, he's, Anakin's right. The Clone Wars kind of like muddy the waters a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as like making Anakin seem more heroic and Dooku seeming more villainous and the Separatists seeming more villainous and the clones seeming more human. But I really think that, when you look at the opening crawl for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, when they say there's heroes on both sides, I mean, that's exactly the truth. The Separatists weren't wrong in what they wanted. They just happen to be the bankers and the traders and all the people that people associate. Well, if you have money, then you want to control everything. But what they wanted was separation from the Republic because the Republic was corrupt. And in fact, the Republic was corrupt. The Republic just didn't know it until it became the Empire.
I was going to say, I kind of took it as Dooku was kind of like, I mean, we're talking about EU because I'm kind of basing off of the Darth Plagueis book. And the way I kind of took Dooku is that he was a Jedi first. And obviously, he could not basically see eye to eye with them. So like you made a good point. They were kind of spread out. They didn't know what they're doing. And he's like, we need to have some power. We need to have some control. We need to figure out what's, make things right in a better way. And they weren't listening to him. So he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to try and do this the Sith way. Not necessarily trying to be evil and bad, but he's like, they get results. So
right.
Go ahead.
If you see Attack of the Clones, I mean, he's not a bad guy. Even Caod Mundi says he's a political idealist, not a murderer. I mean, did he order the hit on Padme? Maybe.
Of course he did.
Speculation, but, the fact of the matter is he had Obi-Wan right where he wanted him and didn't off him. I mean, obviously Obi-Wan is the biggest threat, period. You know what I mean? At that point, he could have offed him, but, he kept him going. He even offered him, a chance to set everything right. He told Obi-Wan point blank to his face, like point blank, this is the guy you're looking for. His name's Darth Sidious. He has the Senate under his control. He even re-says it in the Clone Wars, during the Sifo-Dyas one-off, where he's like, Obi-Wan.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Whoops! Spoiler alert!
You know what?
He says to him, you haven't been paying attention. So he gives it away. I mean, the Clone Wars itself, the cartoon series, paints Tyrannus as more of a villain than he actually is in the two movies, which is why I don't really get behind the Clone Wars, because it's more of a retcon, to fill in the blanks.
You think so? See, you know what? I'm happy that you brought that up, because to me, I think that is just more of an homage to how amazing Christopher Lee is. I mean, everybody loves Christopher Lee. He's a cinema icon. He's a screen legend. And the way he plays that scene, you can see he's the political idealist. He's very savvy. He's very charming and suave. And he says that to Obi-Wan to continue to sell his point, even though they both know what's going on. And he's pretty sure that Obi-Wan's going to die. And he does put them in, an arena to be killed, eaten alive by animals. So that's attempted murder. I mean, we can still love him, and I do love Count Dooku, but that's cold-blooded, man. I mean, even a Viking wouldn't do that.
No, a Viking wouldn't do that. We've tied Puffin up to bigger trees than what Obi-Wan and Anakin had.
And they're delicious too, by the way. So thank you again.
They are. Puffin are great with barbecue sauce.
Walleye cheese is better.
Walleye cheese. But the fact is that he pulls him out there, but he does that to set up the Jedi coming out and starting the war on Geonosis. I mean, the whole point of getting Anakin and Obi-Wan there is to broaden the conflict.
Absolutely.
It's not the little cupcake; it's the entire enchilada. If you get what I'm saying. They're the Sith think in big picture. They don't think in small victories. No. They'll lose the war on Geonosis to start the whole conflict. And that's what's so great about it. What did they get out of the conflict on Geonosis? Number one,
they start the Clone Wars. That's what they get out of it.
They start the Clone Wars.
That's pretty big.
They humble Anakin Skywalker by cutting off his arm.
That was just a bonus, though. He really just wanted to escalate and screw up the Jedi, and that's what he did. You brought Gunnar mentioned earlier, as did you, Chad, the scene where Count Dooku is about to become decapitated, and we see kind of the final nail. Well, not the final nail. I guess that would be with Sidious and Mace. But where we see there were no Clone Wars during this time as far as an animated series for us to watch and digest and analyze and all that good stuff. So when he says do it, Gunnar, you guys do your do it impression again.
Do it.
That's good. That is very good. So Dooku, when this happens, he looks over at the Emperor like there's actual sadness. Like he's actually surprised. He's saddened. And they talked about this recently on Full of Sith as well. But he just can't believe that the Emperor, that Palpatine is going to sell him out like that. And yes, he could spill the beans, but even though he may be a bad guy, he still has ideals that he fights for, and he was as loyal to Palpatine as anyone has ever been. And then Palpatine just lets him get cut down because he wants to get somebody new in there. And in Dooku in that moment becomes a sympathetic character. So I can see why you're saying that. How do you feel about that? Well,
I feel that, if Dooku was better than Anakin, then Anakin would have been dead and Dooku would have been alive, and they would have continued their fight. Absolutely. The fact of the matter is the Sith revolve around survival of the fittest.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He that as an apprentice. If he was better than Sidious, he would have killed Sidious. You know what I mean? If he could have taken on an apprentice to been strong enough to confront Sidious, he would have. Maul kind of does the same thing, even though I'm not a big fan of Maul being resurrected in the Clone Wars. But Maul kind of does the same thing with Savage Opress, and then how he starts off with getting one person in a group of people and then a larger group of people and then all of Mandalore and stuff. And that's why Sidious goes after him, because he's a rival at that point. But, if Dooku was able to take Obi-Wan over to his side, which is what he was trying to do, if he was able to do that, he would have went after Sidious. I think so, very much so. He was on equal footing as far as I'm concerned. But if you look at all the movies, anytime Jedi go against a Dark Lord of the Sith, with the exception of Yoda fighting Sidious one-on-one, it's always been two-on-one. Whether it was Anakin, and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, or Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Maul. It's always a 2-on-1 situation because the dark side, unfortunately, is more powerful. So, that kind of leads into to what I was trying to say before about the Jedi being unstable and not really being in order. Because in episode 3, when they go to take out the guys, Yoda should say, like, listen.
Did you say that the dark side is more powerful?
For sure.
Because Yoda says they're not.
Well, but Yoda had a stalemate with, Darth Sidious. So what do you think?
Well, I think that Yoda was incredibly weakened, and towards the end of his run, even before this happened, and that used every bit of. I mean, after he fights Count Dooku, he has to use a cane. Part of that's a bit of an act, probably, but it's also not that far from the truth. Sometimes fiction and the truth are so similar, it's hard. The lines become blurred. And Palpatine is at the absolute peak of his dark side powers. He sucked all the energy from the Jedi, practically, literally. So at that point, that's why Luke had to come up and be the New Hope to restore that balance, because the dark side clearly had the edge, but also took them a very, very long time, a century to do it.
Well, exactly, but and I agree with you to a point. If Yoda would have taken Obi-Wan with him to confront Palpatine, then the Jedi win. The fact of the matter is, Yoda went on his own because he thought he could stand up to Palpatine by himself, and that wasn't the case.
And that's really all he had to bring with it. He didn't really have anybody to go with him too, I don't think.
Yeah, but if you bring Obi-Wan, you have a better chance of success. It's an all or nothing play at that point, and he decides to be the lone wolf, Chuck Norris of the Jedi Order and try to do things. The fact of the matter is, Luke didn't beat the Sith. The Sith beat the Sith because Luke distracted Palpatine enough for Vader to do what he needed to do. If Luke doesn't throw his lightsaber down, then that doesn't set up, the Emperor being overcome by, this is it, I'm going to end it all for, forever, period. You know what I mean? There's no more Jedi, there's no more nothing. He's not thinking that Vader's going to betray him, but treachery is the way of the Sith. Right. The fact of the matter is, if Anakin doesn't turn and become Vader, he doesn't get close enough to Palpatine to throw him down the reactor shaft.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, of course. I don't think we're saying that two different of things.
Right. No, it's just a perspective. Because if Anakin
from a certain point of view,
it's not going to happen. Palpatine wins, 20 times to 1.
Oh no, yeah, no one would ever dispute that.
Anakin had to fall in order to be in position to realize what he did wrong via Luke. Luke is the proxy.
It's all about redemption through the Son, which makes it kind of Christian, really.
Right, almost. So what you're saying isn't wrong. It's just not right. We're right. Me and Gunnar are right.
Who's we?
Your coffee's definitely stronger than ours. Let's put it that way.
Me and Gunnar would take you and Corey on in a steel cage ladder match.
Straight up.
Flaming tables, no problem.
I can run pretty fast, so
winner take all puffin. Puffin World Championship.
I think I'm going to leave the steel cage match the professional.
There you go.
Yeah. As you know, Gunnar, when we have our guests on, and you are certainly one of our more esteemed guests we've ever had, so we're so happy again to have you on. But we have 5 questions that we ask all of our guests about Star Wars, kind of one-word, one-sentence answers, and we like to see what everybody has in common. So we're just going to jump right into it. What is your favorite Star Wars movie?
I would say Return of the Jedi. Always has been since I was a kid.
Awesome. Okay, your favorite Star Wars character?
I'm looking forward to this answer.
Yeah, me too.
I want to say I've always been a Palpatine fan. I just like his he's very mysterious to me, especially the episode 1, 2, and 3. It was really cool to me how they established his character and stuff like that. He was just very powerful. So it intrigued me as a kid. I was always a bad guy fan growing up, even in wrestling. So the bad guy characters in Star Wars always got me.
Plus, they were very, very cool, too. Red lightsabers, you can't beat them.
No, right?
So what is your favorite line of dialogue or film moment?
Probably, and it's one that me and Chad always do, we text each other back and forth, but it's not even a long dialogue. It was just, Palpatine saying good. It was just very, like I said, once again, powerful. It's just 2 word or 1 word, but, good. Yes, see? That's it.
Plus, it kind of gives you chills. I mean, this he's practically the devil. All right, so perfect. So, Corey, is this you or me? Hi there.
Yeah.
That's my daughter, Natalie.
Okay, Gunner. If you collect, what's your favorite collectible that you own?
I do collect. I think probably now is a Darth Vader painting that I bought at Disneyland. Matter of fact, there's only 95 of them made, and it was a very expensive painting, but it was something I forked over the money and got it because I wanted it. I can't remember the artist's name, but he does a lot of paintings for a lot of the Disney characters and a lot of and now Star Wars and stuff too. So I bought that last year.
That's cool. If you ever get a chance, we'd love to tweet that out. We'd love to see that.
Absolutely. I'll see if I have it on my phone and get it done tonight.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah. And lastly, the big one. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
I believe kind of like, man, that doesn't true.
They're deep. They're too deep.
That was deep. Resonate to me. I guess the good and bad side kind of, it's kind of like you watch a movie, you have the good side, you have the bad side. That's really what kind of, even in wrestling, growing up as a kid, you pick the good guy, you pick the bad guy to go for, and that's the message that either the Jedi who, I'm not too big a fan on, but they had the good side and they had their ways that they tried to follow the rules, and then the Sith, of course, had their, the dark side. So I guess the good and the bad.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, Chad, coming from your perspective, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
My favorite Star Wars movie is an absolute tie between Attack of the Clones and Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Fair enough, and I bet I can guess why. So,
I'm sure you could.
so speaking of guessing, we don't even need a drum roll for this, Corey. Who is your favorite character?
It's a triple tie.
Oh. Do we allow ties?
I don't know. We'll allow it this one time.
General Taylor a tie.
It's a three-way tie between Han Solo, Count Dooku, and old school Darth Vader. Old school Darth Vader.
Old school Darth Vader.
Meaning before Endor?
Before Anakin.
Before Anakin. Okay.
All right. Your favorite line of dialogue or film moment?
There's two parts. The first one is in Attack of the Clones when Count Dooku, or as I would say, Darth Tyrannus, is fighting with Yoda and says, "This is just the beginning." And then the second part is in Empire Strikes Back when Lando betrays Han and Leia and Chewbacca and the droids to Darth Vader. And Darth Vader's sitting across the banquet table with a couple glasses of wine, and I think there was a Caesar salad or something. He says, "We would be honored if you would join us." And then Han Solo, with no hesitation whatsoever, just pulls the blaster out and fires, I think, 3 or 4 shots, which were harmlessly deflected. And then, of course, Vader pulls the gun from his hand. But I thought that, obviously, if you look at Han shooting first, Greedo never stood a chance, right?
Exactly.
Because he put about 4 blaster bolts downrange on Vader, and if Vader wasn't who he was at that point, he would have been Bantha Poodoo.
There you go. Also, if you collect, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
I don't collect, but if I was to collect, it would be a life-sized Han Solo in carbonite.
I totally agree.
I think Dan, that's on your top of your list.
That is that is my holy grail.
If I was to shell out any kind of money, it would be for a giant metal Han Solo in carbonite. That's absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't even use it as a coffee table. I'd probably use it as like the floor of my shower.
It'll be my
your front door. It'd be Gunner's front door or my refrigerator.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Nice.
I think I would use it as my favorite decoration for my wall, like Jabba.
For sure, yeah.
And I don't know if you heard our last show, but we talked a lot about that. And Corey made a joke about being able to hide inside of it.
Be awesome.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
gotta hide it. You gotta hide in there. Oh yeah,
that's like extra.
All right, Chad. Last question here. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
Oh, well, the themes and archetypes and tropes and all those witty words that you guys said that speak to me is more of everyone has a part to play in the overall saga in that universe, whether it's a droid like R2-D2 or it's a princess like Leia or a queen like Amidala or some moisture farmer like Owen Lars or some Gungan halfwit like Jar Jar Binks. everyone has a part to play in the overall saga. No matter how minuscule you think it is, it's really much bigger when you extrapolate, the things that they do and put it in the context of the Star Wars universe. And I think a lot of that really ties over to life itself. Like, even though you meet people that you only might know them for about 15, 20 minutes or maybe a couple months or a year of your life, but they still have a profound effect on you.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of that, translates to modern day life. If you were a Viking, see what I did there?
That was good.
Well said.
I said like 5 words, and he said I freaking wrote a book there.
Well, Gunnar and Chad, we've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time to have a cup of coffee with us, a Dark Coffee edition, and you did not disappoint. We had an amazing time, and Chad, you've opened up our minds to a lot of different perspectives. You've both done a lot of great stuff for our show, and you've been just so good about spreading the word about Coffee with Kenobi, and we really, really appreciate it. It just does so much for us and helps get the contribution going and the conversation. Plus, the cool thing about Star Wars and podcasting, just the fandom in general, is look at all the friendships that have happened because of something that George Lucas created.
Oh, for sure. I couldn't agree with that more.
Perfect. So Gunnar, where can people find you?
I have a Twitter account at TNA_Gunnar. Also have a Facebook account. It's just TNA Gunnar. And then I always post a bunch of stuff on Instagram also. It's Gunnar82. So I try and interact with as many people as I can and reply to as many questions as I can. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but I really do try to interact as much as possible because that's why I have it.
And he does. I can definitely vouch that. For our listeners, if you don't understand, and I've loved pro wrestling for a long time, but pro wrestlers are the most incredibly conditioned, disciplined people you'll ever meet, and their schedule is unlike anything you can possibly imagine. So just the fact that you do that and you found time to come on Coffee with Kenobi with us, Corey and I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you guys, man. I'm sorry I'm not a knowledgeable encyclopedia of Star Wars over here, but I'm learning.
But you are. You had some great answers and some great insights, and it's all about the greatest thing about this show and shows like this is that it just generates conversation, which leads perfectly to Chad. Chad, we've again appreciate so much everything you've done for our show and for us and your friendship and all the good things you spread and the conversation you started. And I think we all know that sometimes you just like to stir the pot for fun, and I'm all about that. I love doing that with my students too, because what it does is it generates conversation and stimulates your mind, and we appreciate that. So, Chad, thank you again so much for being on Coffee with Kenobi, and we hope to have you both on again very soon.
Absolutely. I'm down anytime.
I'm not coming back ever.
Well, that was easier than I thought.
No, yeah, guys, appreciate it. From my point of view, too, it was a blast. I enjoyed having you guys on because, like Dan said, it's just everyone we have on the show, everybody's got their own perspective, their own way of looking at things, even if they've only seen the movies a few times or 100 million times. And I love just interacting with fans and to get to know each other and just interacting and having a good conversation and coffee.
Dark coffee.
Dark coffee.
Hashtag dark coffee.
I would like to point out like a bunch of other people other than myself. So can I do that?
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
There's more important people like, Becca and, Becca Benjamin and Trisha Barr, the guys over the Cantina Cast.
Yeah.
You guys, obviously, Coffee with Kenobi, Jason Ward over at Now This Is Podcasting. All you guys do an outstanding job with, promoting discussion and, thoughtful conversation about Star Wars rather than just reporting a bunch of stuff. This is what Star Wars is really all about. It's about talking about the characters and the archetypes and all the things that go into the saga. Not really about, who's playing who or, when's filming going to start. It's more, let's talk about what really matters. And that's the themes and the meaning behind the saga. So I would just like to raise my hat to all you guys who take the time to put these podcasts out and give us all something to talk about and something to listen to.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. Again, just the way that you're, everyone you mentioned are all friends of our show, and
awesome.
appreciate. We had an absolute blast having you guys on. Thank you so
great.
much.
Thank you so much for contacting us and allowing us to be on the podcast. We really, really love the podcast.
Yeah, man, it's been a blast.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
have a great night out.
All right,
see you guys.
As well.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/coffeewithkenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, download the album Eye to Eye by Steve Torok on iTunes.
Your work here is finished, my friend.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Ltd. and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
Good.